Wait, I have a question.
He's
Who?
already making things happen. He's a substitute for less than a second, and he's making things happen. Hi, Riley. How are you?
Hi, my name's Riley. I'm meeting everyone here for the first time except my buddy George. There he is.
That's George. Whoa.
Riley's in the window beneath mine on the
Hmm.
recording.
Wow. This is amazing.
Oh,
Wow. It's just like Wes Anderson's film Asteroid City, where a lot of people meet each other for the first time.
Wow, that is probably the worst
and
comparison
I
ever. Like,
planned that. So yeah, we are talking about Asteroid City tonight, Wes Anderson's latest venture.
Hmm.
And I'm going to start with our guest panelist tonight, Riley. We saw the movie together yesterday. What'd you think?
Yes. So, a little bit of background about myself. I'm a huge Wes Anderson fan. He's my second favorite director behind Quentin Tarantino, and I discovered him probably about a year ago now, maybe a little more, when I first watched French Dispatch. My brother told me about it. He said it was really good. I watched it, I loved it, and then I decided to watch all of them. I've seen all of his movies except I haven't seen Rushmore. I haven't seen Bottle Rocket. Those are his early,
if you
early
haven't
stuff.
seen Rush, you gotta watch Rushmore.
No, I know. I'll probably get around to it, but everything after that I've seen. I've made up my mind about all of them. I really love almost all of them. Um, so he's made some of my favorite movies ever. So with that being said, I went into this movie with super high expectations, which I always try not to do. Um, but given obviously the huge cast of this movie, given how much I love everything that he's done, I was hoping for this to be so amazing. And we all saw the trailer. I loved the color scheme and I loved how it was his style. And so within the first 20 minutes, I'd say 20, 30 minutes, um, there was a scene where do we say spoilers? Do we like to talk about
Yeah,
the
we talk
plot?
about spoilers.
Spoilers. Yeah, they know when they watch. They know.
Okay. All right. Not that I'm gonna get into that right away, but I'm just gonna talk about specific details of the movie. When Jason Schwartzman is on the phone with Tom Hanks, and it was like probably six, seven of those 90-degree camera pans in like a minute when he's in the phone booth and he's looking down the road and the cops are going by. Um, I was watching that and I was just getting all giddy because I was like, this is so perfect. This is what I wanted to see. Um, at that point, we had seen enough of Jason Schwartzman's performance where I was like, this is perfect. He's killing it. He's performing exactly to the level of a Wes Anderson character who is dealing with grief and he has to, be strong for his kids and not, create problems and kind of just go on with his life, which is, a common theme in a lot of his stuff. And Jason Schwartzman was totally nailing that. I was in love with it. Tom Hanks was really great as that bit character, and um, so I was really, excited for all that to culminate into one of those big emotional moments like Royal Tenenbaums is not my favorite Wes Anderson movie. It's one of my, probably in the bottom third in terms of my favorite Wes Anderson movies, but that's the movie I think of when I think about, these big grand like outburst moments and boiling over of tension and like fracturing of a family or a dynamic or whatever it might be. And that never happened for me in this
Mhm.
movie. I didn't get that moment. I didn't get a climax like I had hoped. And I asked George after the movie, I was like I don't even know what the climax was. And I guess if you had to like, write down on paper what the climax was, it would be the alien coming back for the second time, returning the asteroid, and they
Hmm.
extend quarantine, everyone freaks out. But that just wasn't it for me. I was hoping for something a little bit more personal, like we see in a lot of his stuff. Right, George?
It could
Yeah.
arguably.
Just Declan, give me a second. The Yeah, I thought more about what we talked about after the movie yesterday. You could also view the conversation between Jason Schwartzman's character and Margot Robbie's character outside of the play within the film as a sort of climax. It's sort of the emotional height, I guess, for Jason Schwartzman's character, the peak of his arc. But yeah, I mean the you said it basically exactly how I said it after the movie yesterday. There is no big, huge climax, and I think you look at a movie like Fantastic Mr. Fox, obviously not an original story from Wes Anderson, but there is a very clear climax to the film. You look at Isle of Dogs, clear climax to the film. Moonrise Kingdom, clear climax to the film. You see a pattern developing here. So I think what we get in Asteroid City is almost an anticlimactic climax, but it was pretty perfect for what the film had been to that point and what it would be for the rest of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I am not a big Wes Anderson film. Not that fan, not that I don't like his films, but I typically found him punching under his weight, to be honest. He is at his essence a much more like indie art house filmmaker who has made his way into the sort of box office by doing something that's digestible for a broader audience. This is the first film that I think he really just said screw it and went all in on his very postmodern, post-deconstruction of his own films in Hollywood, in essence. I mean, all the characters sort of have ideas of who they are, but they're trying to like separate it, and deconstruct it. And those pieces of their identity don't make up who they are. I mean, there's a lot you can talk about in this film, but I think the essence is it's one about life. And not having a climax is actually quite perfect for it, like you said. One of the last things they say is they're at the diner when they order 5 flapjacks, no 6, because it's such a regular thing. Then there's the atomic bomb in the background, just also a regular thing. And then they say, look, it's today again when the alien comes to return the rock. And what does he do with the rock? They keep questioning, why did he take the asteroid after all this time and he returns it? It's to inventory it, the most mundane possible thing. I mean, it really messes with what is supposed to be a big revelation in your own life. But even after the alien comes, they're still dealing with grief. It doesn't change their lives, and the son is like, trying to figure that out. But by the end, he realizes the meaning of life. He just wants to put who he's in love with on the moon. It's a wonderful film, in my opinion, that really you can draw from it what you will. It's not as directed as some of his previous films. It really embraces that sort of independent art house style of you don't have to explain everything, and sometimes the people that write it, like he explains, have no idea why something happens, just like life. Sometimes it just pops into your head, and sometimes it just works. David Lynch is somebody that really loves to put things in there, and he has no idea, like it's supposed to be more of an emotional affect. I mentioned David Lynch because he is in the same realm as Wes Anderson, along with Quentin Tarantino, guys that really love art house and could probably be considered in those more niche genres, but have transferred that over to Hollywood. Quentin Tarantino obviously was a big cinephile.
They're also 3 of the directors with the most unique styles in modern cinema.
Well, there's a reason for that.
I think the film, the decision to be meta, to have the 2 separate stories on different like metatextual things, that is a real that's a really interesting decision. And I at this moment in time, like the thing is, I feel like I'm like, is it too much? But at the same time, like I honestly feel as though I just saw it today. It's like I almost feel like I need to think about not need to think about it more. It's like I feel like the film does have like genuine emotional depth to it, and I feel like I haven't like fully got like processed it all at this moment in time, you know. But I do feel like there is something there, but I do wonder if having the meta element was too much or if it was.
I don't think so, because I mean, first of all, he does a clever thing where the actual play of Asteroid City is in very bright colors, you know, really rich orange as the background, and it's sort of set up like a play. Obviously, it's shot like a play. All the sets are set up like they're basically play sets. You know, they could just like knock them down essentially, and it's all purposeful. And then you bring it back one layer to sort of the actors playing the actors in that. And I think they do an interesting thing with Jason Schwartzman, where his character is sort of the go-between. As I say, he's one and the same as the character he's playing. He is sort of the person that's going between the art and the meaning of it. And
One
also
thing
he
you noticed about the discrepancy between the two worlds, other than the obvious color choice and presentation, like visual presentation, you've got two regular Wes Anderson players in Adrian Brody and Edward Norton in the sort of, Declan, you called it meta sort of commentary type, real world in the fake world. I phrased that horribly, but you see two of Anderson's regulars there. Schwartzman, Ben, as you said, is sort of the go-between. And then the most prominent actors, real life actors in the world of the play are Scarlett Johansson, Tom Hanks, Steve Carell, and then, you know, the kids, none of whom is a regular Wes contributor. I don't know if any of them have done a Wes film before that I can remember. I think Scarlett Johansson maybe did Isle of Dogs, if I remember correctly. I don't.
The exception of that was Schwartzman, but I think he's a different
Schwartzman is
exception
as the
because
go-between is
he
in
was the
both
main
worlds.
character.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that is true. Oh wow, sorry. That's like yeah. It's like I now understand your point more. It's like, oh, that's an interesting thing. Yeah, that's like
He
that. It's
used
like
he
in
used his regular actors as
in
sort
the
of like the world, and then the story was all of these new faces. I mean, Margot Robbie is the obvious exception because she was really only presented in that outside world.
Well,
But
she is her photo is used in the
right,
yeah. So it's kind of a middle middle ground there as well. That is true. Like yeah, that's like actually so like that I
but
that
at the
that,
same
that like
time,
I totally did not pick up on that. That's a really good observation there.
at the same time, I'm poking holes in my own theory. Jeffrey Wright, Tilda Swinton, two more who are, often in Wes Anderson's films,
Yeah.
only appear in the world of the play.
Yeah, I
There's
wouldn't get too much into that because Wes Anderson's a guy that just likes to introduce new faces and work with new people as long as he gets to work with Jason Schwartzman. But
Wilson.
no Owen Wilson, and I read earlier today that the reason why Bill Murray wasn't in this film, he was originally cast in the film, but he couldn't appear because he couldn't shoot his scenes because he had COVID.
Oh no. Oh.
So they
yeah,
had to cut him out of the movie.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Is that the first non-Bill Murray Wes Anderson film? Like
First in a while.
yeah. It's like
first, but
oh my gosh. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that he basically had like a muse in Jason Schwartzman. Kind of like that's Wes Anderson as sort of a stand-in. because Jason Schwartzman is essentially his muse in everything. He just is.
Are you sure Tony Revolori is not his muse?
No.
Tony Revolori. I feel like he.
I don't think there's been a Wes Anderson film that Jason Schwartzman isn't in, including, I mean, he wrote Rushmore sort of around him. So
Was he in Budapest, Grand Budapest Hotel?
I feel like he
I
must
think
be.
he was.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
He's been in every single one. I don't know that there's one that he's been left out.
Let me head to Letterboxd. We'll check it out.
But
Yeah, he's in Grand Budapest Hotel.
Okay.
I think it really is. I mean, there's a lot you can take from this, but I don't think there's one way to read it, which is why I like it. I really prefer movies like that. And not to say that any of Wes Anderson's other films are bad per se, but it's just my personal taste. That he really embraced his identity as a filmmaker in this one, rather than sort of taking a cautious approach while doing his own style, but not going fully into the very postmodern way that people view his films. I mean, this is as postmodern as you can get.
I do. Yeah, so it's almost like, so maybe the denial of the emotional like catharsis that you were talking about, Riley. It's like, yeah, maybe that was a fully intentional thing, I guess.
No doubt.
Oh, I think it 100% is. I mean, like he makes a lot of analogies basically to life in this film, and messing with it with the things you would expect in a movie, like the A-bomb test as regular, but the pieces of everyday life are not. They're exceptional in this world, in this play. Like they bring the car to Matt Dillon playing I forget his name, Montana. That's his name.
Was he Montana or was
no. Montana was the singer who danced with the teacher.
Oh no,
right?
that was Matt Dillon though.
Wait, what?
Matt Dillon was the mechanic. Rupert Friend was Montana.
Yeah.
Was it? What, you know what? They kind of look the same.
By the way, can I ask also, is he related, Rupert Friend? Is he related to Alden Ehrenreich at all?
I get the comparison. They do look very similar. I don't think they're related.
No, yeah, probably not. I feel like I kept thinking it's like I kept thinking he looked like since I don't know him too well. I kept thinking he looked like an older Alden Ehrenreich. It's just like a weird like it's weird how similar they look. It's partially his hair though, yeah.
But anyway, with the mechanic, he's like, well, I've seen this problem, once or twice, and it's like he's only got two options for how this is going to turn out, and the third thing happens. He's like, wow, looks like you have a problem we haven't seen before.
Oh wow.
And meanwhile, through the movie, you've got like, oh, another atomic bomb test, and an alien visits, and they're just like, they just sort of want to go home. It's these compositions of grief, just regular human emotion, and then like the extreme circumstances that would be present in a play, in a movie. I think it's a very interesting idea, and it really takes the people apart. I mean, certainly like Scarlett Johansson and I forget, Midge and Augie, they sort of relate in that their really only existence is their profession. It's like, why do you take pictures? Like, I'm a photographer. But this idea of identity as what is it? Your relationship? Is it what you do? Is it why you do it? There's a big presence on like, why does Augie burn his hand? But what makes meaning in your life? Does any of that actually matter if you answer that question? And also, I mean, it does really tie into film as well, film critiques, film analysis, even when I'm doing now. Like, trying to have a definitive reason why something's there. People have it for their lives in this film, but it's ridiculous. Just probably as ridiculous as having a definitive answer for, what happens in this film and why something happens.
I did like the playwright just like saying repeatedly, he's like, oh, I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
Like he just kind of did. Like
he just did. I don't know why. And then of course,
it's totally valid. It just
genius of that scene is right after they say the playwright dies in a car accident. Why does he do that? Well, sometimes that's just life. There's no why. There's no rhyme or reason. Why does his wife die in the beginning? That's the sad thing about life is there's no why and there's no climax at the end.
Mm.
There's just life and there's the moments in between and there's your relationships, your identity, your profession, and there's this idea of what we want to leave behind. But nobody can tell you what that is. Nobody can really give that to you. Only you can discover it.
Mm.
I think what adds on to that is the police chase that goes through the town. Like, I think it was 3 times throughout the movie. It's an
Yeah.
identical police chase,
Mm.
the same one that happens 3 times. The first time I was like, okay, that's probably just Wes Anderson being a freak. Well, I'll see what happens with that later. It happens again, and again it's ignored. And I think it happens at the very end.
Yeah.
And then I say to myself, I guess we'll figure out what this is about, and then they just keep going.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like there's no reason for it, and that's also playing with like an expectation of normalcy in this world in this play versus what we consider normal in our own lives, which is grief, emotions, things like that. Where we can actually distract ourselves probably. If an alien came, we could distract ourselves forever from our own emotions. But in this one, they're unfazed by it. It's the reverse, sort of.
Yeah, like they said, like the atomic bomb. I think they directly addressed that by saying that's normal around here.
Well, they say, "Oh, another atomic bomb test."
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
That's everyday Monday thing.
Yeah,
Can I just
no one
quickly
says a
point out-
word about the cops flying by.
Can I just quickly point out atomic bomb test and Margot Robbie?
I know.
Review
I know.
Oppenheimer.
Like, oh my god.
I mean, it is sort of like Los Alamos. They're in the desert. They're testing
Yeah.
bombs. And I also love the ramp.
That's such a
The
strange.
ramp was
metaphorical ramp,
perfect
right?
production design. Perfect production design. Loved it.
It's out of order. It doesn't go anywhere. It's barely built. And
Yeah.
I guess the idea is that, I mean, life, it's like, where does this go? And it's like, nowhere.
Also, Ben, going back to your point about how it's sort of presented like a staged set, the ramp starts, if I remember correctly, the ramp starts disconnected from the road
Yeah.
so that you can see the
It's just not
sign
even part of the road.
facing, you can see the sign facing front saying like ramp closed permanently or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it goes up and then it cuts across and ends right there. So the production design, and Wes Anderson has always had brilliant production design. I think French Dispatch is probably maybe my favorite production design of his films. Grand Budapest Hotel is up there too, and Moonrise Kingdom. But just the way that the cinematography plays a big role in how he frames everything up, and every shot and every movement with the camera is so deliberate, maybe more than any other director I've ever seen, including yours truly. But what we get from his production design in this film is that presentation like a staged play. Even though it's three-dimensional, you still get that two-dimensional feel. And Jason Schwartzman said after the film was completed that the road that goes off into the distance actually gets skinnier as you drive deeper into it. Like the location was flat and they had to make the road smaller. They shot this in Spain, but it was they orchestrated everything down to the road getting,
and it is a bit like a cartoon, and
it's exactly like a cartoon. Why didn't we see a rock face with a tunnel drawn on it?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic that they took the Roadrunner and put him in there because it's an example of life, right? You're looking for that climax. Riley Coyote never catches him.
That's true. Yeah. The coyote never even shows up. Yeah. I also gotta say,
the climactic to see the climax, and that's.
I also got to give credit to like the costume designer or whoever it was who created the alien. Like I feel like they did a good job of making it feel like otherworldly. Like partially just because I feel if I had seen that like image as like a child, I would have been deeply afraid of it for like reasons I can't fully articulate.
It seems very influenced by like old school, 50s
Yeah. It was super unique, but also felt
It
both
may have been a
alien
model.
and also in Wes Anderson's world. So it's like I feel
It
like
may
it was
have
a
been
great.
like a practical model or something for that.
I thought it was like it might
When
have been
the
stop
alien
motion.
It
Or
kind of
like,
when
looks
the
stop
alien
motion.
shows up in the film, I was almost like, no, I'm out.
yeah.
But I stopped myself and I said, let's see where this goes.
Hmm.
I was like, it seems so out of place in that moment. And then the rest of the movie was more or less about that and the impact of that situation. Like the asteroid is the impetus, but the alien is what gets the story going in the second act.
Hmm.
And I was fully on board. I was like, you know what? Visually interesting. So, the one word everyone uses to describe Wes other than symmetry is quirky.
Hmm.
The presentation of the alien in both scenes in which it appears is quirky. It's oddly shaped. It looks like Jeff Goldblum.
Hmm.
The way he
It's
moves, the way he stands, he kind of stands like this.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Looks
it's really
scared.
honestly, yeah. But
Those eyes. It's the eyes are yeah, just oh
all right,
gosh.
so we know Declan's afraid of the alien. Let's talk to the other two of you about it.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I very much liked it. I think it's the culmination of what he's attempting to show, which is the probably most extreme thing you could do in this circumstance. And everyone, some people are like, "Oh, wow, what does this mean?" But they're searching for like meaning in themselves, like meaning in their own lives, versus.
I'm playing the alien as a metaphor. A metaphor for what? Oh, I don't know.
I mean, there's a lot of that, like searching for meaning in things, like the random like numbers, and they're like, "Oh, what does that mean?" And it's like, "Oh, we don't know." And he gets a date, and
You
he's
know,
like, "Oh, is it?" It's like,
I think that's interesting with how Tilda Swinton's character is because she's like supposed to be the teacher. She's supposed to be leading this whole thing, and these kids come in with a totally fresh perspective on
Mm.
what they're looking at. They see things in, the pattern on the dates or whatever that she doesn't see, and that, you know, the way she sees it is totally different from the way this 14-year-old kid sees it.
Mm.
yeah, I view it as half that, and also half like you can be whatever you want. You know, it's like, how do you know that's a date? It's, and then there's the odd thing at the end where he looks at it and it's like, it's today again.
Yeah, that was
At
such
the
a
end,
weird line.
but it does make sense, this idea of like, the concept of time as sort of a circle, doing the same things over and over again, um, is something that's common in life. And even for these very crazy professions like being an actor or being a war photographer, they become so desensitized to what they're doing that they
Mm.
only do it because it's their job.
I'll also just
And
I just
once
gotta
again,
bring
that plays into the idea of the regularity of the atomic bomb tests and the police chase through the
Yeah,
center of
mm.
town.
things that are insane but
Just
happen regularly.
regular occurrences.
Mhm. And
Time is a
I
flat
also got
circle.
to give credit like for another like subtle thing that I'm pretty sure was intentional, but I also feel that the structure of the story feels like similar to how a lot of modern plays are structured, wherein the first actor is like just setting up characters and waiting for something to happen, and then the climax of the first act is always like the thing that happens, the shoe dropping, and then the remainder of the play being people dealing with like the aftermath of that shoe dropping. It's like I feel like it felt true to like how plays sometimes are.
Did you
Modern
not
plays.
watch the movie? There is no other shoe.
Now,
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. It's
So
just
it's,
a
it's
gimmick.
kind of
It's a
Shakespearean in
gimmick.
that way. A few Shakespeare plays do that, where they drop everything like in the second act, and then the rest of it is just the repercussions.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, no, it's a. I mean, I think there's plenty of ways you can really take from it. I probably want to watch it, a few more times and really see what I get out of it. But I love film that does this because it's the truest form of the art to me, which is something that you can get something new out of it. It's not directing you. You are sort of absorbing it. You're actively participating, engaging with it. Your perception of it and what you get from it is going to be different from someone else's.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I mean it's probably going to be my number one for Wes Anderson movies.
Damn. Wow. Oh,
So
shit. full
we
spectrum of it.
will get into our Wes Anderson rankings in just a minute here, but any final thoughts from the panel on Asteroid City?
It was also funny, the weird meta joke that they did with Scarlett Johansson, where it's like they get stunt doubles to.
Where they show her nude, but not
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, it's not actually her, and then Jason sort of immediately says, like, in Hollywood they can get like stunt. It's like it was such a strange moment. It's like just like what?
I thought it was the I don't know, the sort of fakeness of life sometimes, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Intentional artist. Yeah, maybe. Okay, that could be
I mean,
it.
it's like
Man,
want to see
you're really hammering home this "that's life" theme of this movie.
well, half of them talk about the meaning of life and life itself in the film, so I don't think I'm stretching it that far. I think it's pretty clear in the film it's about life.
Performance of a lifetime from Jason Schwartzman. That's my final comment.
Oh damn.
He
Yeah,
was great.
this was my favorite performance of his that I've seen. And again,
He was in Tenenbaums, right? Royal Tenenbaums.
Yeah, I think we just discussed that he was in everything.
Yeah, true. No, I'm just trying to like.
But yeah, the depth of this cast. There are some people that we haven't even mentioned because of how deep this cast is. Probably the deepest that Wes has ever had.
The young actors are all top notch, I feel.
Yeah, the child actors are great. Schwartzman, Johansson, Hanks, Jeffrey Wright. I mean, Tilda Swinton. The list really just goes on forever.
It
As
really
we saw in
does.
both the opening and closing credits. Bryan Cranston we haven't even mentioned, and he's there. Walter White makes an appearance.
And he's a
I was
great
like-
narrator because he's sort of as lost as everybody else. There's even this
Yeah.
scene where he shows up in the actual play by accident. He's like, "Oh, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to be here."
That was gotta be one of the strangest moments of it. It's like,
Laugh
what is
out
that?
loud funny. And that's kind of what I love about Wes's movies, is that, a lot of them deal with grief. A lot of them deal with, heavy, true to life subjects. But the scripts are so tight and the actors give performances that are so almost lighthearted, no matter what the subject matter, that you can't help but feel like laughing. And they're comedies, even though there are dramatic themes in most of his movies. So I mean that's truer than ever in Asteroid City. Because there are plenty of heavy moments, but there are also plenty of moments where I was, laughing out loud in the theater. So, Benjamin, you're going to start us off here because we already know what your number one is, but let's count it down
Well,
3 to 1.
I was going to say, real quick, I do really love all the jokes about God and Episcopalianism.
That was a great bit.
So, your mother is probably in heaven, maybe hell. But I don't believe in that.
It's like
I don't believe in that, but you do.
Like,
you're
your mom's in heaven. That's unfortunately that's not for me, but you're all Episcopalian. I love that.
There are some great jokes, and at the end, it's like, I don't believe in God anymore. It's like, yeah, I understand. But it's like, yeah, That makes sense.
Tom Hanks, I really like how nice he actually was. You think he's gonna be like a dick, but he's not. I like that.
I watched this movie like less than 24 hours after I watched A Man Called Otto when he is so curmudgeonly.
Yeah,
And it was a nice change of pace for him. He's got more range than ever.
Tom
He's
Hanks,
so,
good actor.
but not too much.
So Benjamin, your top three. We haven't done rankings in a while. Your top three in descending order Wes Anderson movies.
Descending order. Yeah, Asteroid City probably number one for reasons I already discussed.
Shit, I meant ascending order.
Um,
Three to one.
all right.
You already know
So
what one is.
three is we'll go with Moonrise Kingdom. I like that film a lot. And Grand Budapest Hotel. I view a lot of those Wes Anderson films as sort of very similar in a lot of regards. But those are definitely my favorite of his sort of stylistic films. Rushmore's an interesting one, but not quite for me. And then Asteroid City, I just love that, it seems like he really just embraced his identity. He went all for it. So
Declan, how about you?
Oddly enough, like for me, the hardest one is actually number three. Like I literally, as we were speaking, my choice for three changed. Changed like repeatedly. I am going to go with Royal Tenenbaums as my number three. It was almost Fantastic Mr. Fox, and it was almost French Dispatch. I like literally, it was like literally switching between those. Number two, Moonrise Kingdom, and number one, definitely Grand Budapest. I feel like that's like choosing Grand Budapest is like saying it's like, oh yeah, my favorite Scorsese film is Goodfellas, or something like that. Or my favorite Tarantino film is Pulp Fiction. I don't know. Hopefully,
Tarantino. Scorsese's got too many films.
That's true.
Like
Yeah.
Taxi Driver, Raging Bull. You could choose so many of them.
Yeah, that's just so Tarantino. It's like saying your favorite Tarantino is Pulp Fiction. It's totally valid, but it's also like everyone loves it. So but yeah, it has to be Grand Budapest. There's no question.
Riley, I'm gonna let you go last. I'm gonna go here.
Okay.
Yeah, this is tough. I'm gonna say number three. It was a toss-up, and the one that's gonna be left out is Moonrise Kingdom. Number three is gonna be Grand Budapest Hotel. When we did our episode on the menu, I said that Gustav H was Ralph Fiennes' best performance, and I stand by that. I would love to see him do another Wes movie. I think that they worked really well together on that one. But yeah, that's my number three. Number two, I'm going to say French Dispatch. The first act of that film with Benicio del Toro and Adrian Brody, Léa Seydoux, Henry Winkler, that is probably my favorite sequence in any Wes Anderson movie. I think that the presentation and style of that film is so unique in his collection that it sort of stands apart. And it was almost my number one. But my number one, God, this is tough. Isle of Dogs. I think the artistry of that film is just tremendous. The voice cast is great. The story and script is so unique and fresh.
I do love dogs.
Yeah. Who doesn't love dogs? And when you get Bryan Cranston voicing a dog, that's pretty great. But yeah, Isle of Dogs, number one. Can't wait to see that one again. But again, with Wes Anderson rankings, you really can't have a wrong top three.
Yeah.
All right, Riley,
No, good film.
That Bottle Rocket. I've never seen Bottle Rocket.
I've never seen Bottle Rocket. No, I don't know. Maybe it's not a good film.
there's really no consensus, and like with George, I wish I could fit Moonrise Kingdom into the top three. I can't. Number three for me, which I have all the movies of his ranked out on my phone. I always have.
Oh, yeah.
Isle of Dogs is number three, which is so unique. The story's so great, and I think it kind of does a similar thing on perspective, like how I mentioned how the difference between Tilda Swinton and the kids is all the characters in that movie who speak Japanese, you don't know what they're saying. You're not supposed
Yeah.
to know what they're saying. There's no subtitles, there's no translation, there's nothing. Like you just know that they're speaking and you use context clues to figure out what they're saying as, someone who's living in that perspective would have to do. I think that's super cool. Grand Budapest Hotel is number two. I don't really have to explain that one very much. That's just such a great movie and one of my favorite movies of all time. Probably one of the three movies that evoke the most emotion from me is Fantastic Mr. Fox. It creates nostalgia for something that I never even experienced. I don't know how to explain that. Like I
Yeah.
never really read the book that it was based on growing up. I didn't really have that, exposure to the story, exposure to the art style, but something about the soundtrack, something about the art, something about, the story and the dialogue and how this really not childlike, but like fantastical and whimsical story is something so real and something that is pretty adult at times, like how these animals are actually getting hunted and shot at and getting their tails blown off is something that's it's amazing to me. So that's one of my favorite movies of all time, number one.
I remember the original Fantastic Mr. Fox book being read to me. I was in like kindergarten or something like that, and like by teacher, and like the movie actually expands on the story, but I remember like watching it and just being like amazed at how natural it felt as an expansion of the original story. Like it felt everything they added felt like it came from the book, even though it didn't come from the book. And that I feel like was like masterful.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So whimsy. So much whimsy
Mhm.
in that movie.
Yes.
Sure.
And we're all gonna leave with this the Bogus Bunsen Beans song stuck in our head.
Oh gosh.
All right. That's it for us tonight. Riley, thanks for hanging out. I'll be
Absolutely.
back
Happy to
on.
be here.
Yeah, Asteroid City. I think it's a full recommendation from all of us. Go check it out. It's worth seeing on the big screen for the visuals. Shout out Alexander Desplat for yet another amazing Wes Anderson score. Next week, Declan's going to be sitting in the hosting chair. We're talking about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Pretty sure.
Yes, yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. Well, until we meet again, you can't wake up if you don't fall asleep. Good night.
Good night.